So another Democrat has some questionable remarks about Thanksgiving. In a now deleted post, Abdul El Sayed bashed the holiday, used it to call for reparations. You see that deleted tweet right there. That wasn't the only controversial comment that he tried to scrub from the internet. CNN released 100 old comments, including how he has some thoughts about football, questionable in a state that loves the Big Ten and Michigan. But El Sayed does appear to love one thing, Sharia law.
When the state of Oklahoma voted in a referendum to amend the Constitution to ban Sharia law. What does that mean? I don't know. And yet the voters banned it anyway. We're sitting in a space, in a time, when I don't have to tell you that the same exact forces that drove native peoples from their land 2 centuries ago, destroyed Black Wall Street a century ago, bombed a building decades ago, and tried to ban Sharia law not a decade ago, that those forces are alive and well today.
El Sayed's campaign responded to our show saying this, quote, Abdul believes in the separation of church and state. While he personally tries to live by the rules of his faith, as many Americans of various faiths do, Abdul opposes any effort by any religious community to write their faith laws into the laws of our country. But will voters trust a candidate who has some socialist views? Even though he says he is not a socialist, he holds several of those views. Well, according to the polls, the answer to that question is no.
I couldn't think of another example where you actually had a Democratic candidate who was down at least 4 points in a Senate poll in Michigan. And it turns out for this entire century, Abdul El Sayed is the only one in a poll that meets CNN standards for publication. This is extremely, extremely, extremely unusual. Abdul El Sayed breaking records in the ways that you don't want to. In fact, he is the first Democrat down by this much, as I said, in a century since 1994.
Joining me now, Michigan Republican gubernatorial nominee John James. John, first of all, I want to congratulate you. You got the nomination, and you're there in the state of Michigan, so congratulations. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So the polling is looking good in your state because you have El Sayed, and I know this is the Senate race, you're the gubernatorial race, but when I look across the country, it seems like the Republican nominee there, Mike Rogers, is best positioned out of any Republican in the country to defeat El Sayed. What are your thoughts on that race and your own against Jocelyn Benson?
Well, the polling is strong, Kayleigh, but we can't be seduced by early success. We need to make sure that all patriots get to the polls. We cannot save this republic from our patios. We need to make sure that we're standing up in defense of our great nation, that we're standing up in defense of our great state, because the socialists that have taken over the Democrat Party, look, this is not the Democrat Party you grew up with. They hate beauty. Abdul El Sayed just attacked Mackinac Island, one of the most beautiful places on earth. They hate success. Just look around at all the Democrat strongholds in the country where they're homeless and drug abusers and blight everywhere. They want to rewrite our history and they want to destroy our culture. Well, we will not let them. We will stand up against the socialist horde, and we're going to make Michigan great again.
So he has that questionable tweet about Thanksgiving I showed that he's now deleted. I mean, I have to ask you, John James, do you like Thanksgiving?
I love Thanksgiving. I love turkey, and I love eating way too much that I have to take a nap while watching the Lions win their football games. But yeah, look, these Democrats can spare me. They can't even define a woman, and they want to now define a man. Like, this is insane. Football is not toxic masculinity. It's among the greatest team-building efforts the world's ever known. It's something that a lot of us have participated in. And it's the stuff that we all enjoy. Frankly, we need to be looking at more things that bring us together and more things that teach young men in particular how to be a team player and how to succeed, how to proceed through adversity, and something that's a part of Americana that keeps us all together. This is just another example of where the socialists want to tear us apart. Well, we won't let them. And I'm looking forward to celebrating Thanksgiving as Michigan's next governor and looking forward to the next 4 years to restore, save Michigan, and defeat socialism.
Yeah, so you like football and Thanksgiving. I got that on the record now. Also want to ask you about your opponent, Jocelyn Benson, as you both run to win the gubernatorial race there in Michigan. Jocelyn Benson had this remark this week. There was a prosecution announced in Michigan against 5 non-citizens who voted in the 2024 election. She said this: "We welcome these charges because they show the system works. They were a result of our investigation as well in partnership with the Attorney General's office, and really emphasize and underscore at a time where non-citizen voting is thrown around to make people afraid or create and sow false seeds of doubt about our elections, that this is an example of the process working. I don't recall her being a huge voice for election integrity, but she's trying to take some credit here.
Exactly the opposite. You're exactly right, Kayleigh. This is the exact same woman who's presiding over her own election for governor. The same woman who's lost 5 lawsuits due to her malfeasance in elections, not the least of which was putting her thumb on the scale in 2020 in the state of Michigan. She is actually not coordinating with feds and not coordinating with local county officials, but the fact they've let hundreds of illegals on our jury duty rolls, and there are over a dozen that we found who voted in our elections. Jocelyn Benson has a lot of explaining to do. Again, also, what her role was on the SPLC board when they gave money to the KKK. She is the least transparent, least cooperative, and least qualified human being to possibly be governor of the state of Michigan, which is why I'm excited to bring my experience as a combat veteran fighting after 9/11 in Iraq, a business leader who's created jobs in Detroit, and someone who's in Congress working with the president to actually bring resources back to the state of Michigan to make Michigan great again.
Congressman John James, we are watching your race. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayleigh.
Well, a group of Catholic nuns are suing the state of New York.